This is not the sort of transfer news that Man City fans wanted to hear, is it? Rodri reportedly linked with a £100 million move to Real Madrid. Los Blancos apparently preparing a bid for the Ballon d'Or winner, the best midfielder in the world, Mr. Man City himself. Now, look, fingers crossed it doesn't happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to tell you why exactly that is the case in this video. But in the meantime, welcome back to the City Ramble, leading the conversation in the world of Manchester City. If you are new, make sure to hit the subscribe button. I know there's plenty of people who are watching that aren't subscribing yet. So do us a favour, head down into the description, hit the subscribe button. Also get involved in the City Ramble Discord. You can find the City Ramble on all the social medias as well. The handles scrolling along nicely at the bottom. But this is what we know so far. This is everything we know about Real Madrid's reported £100 million bid for Rodri. It's been reported in the Sun newspaper that Real Madrid are prepping it, that they want to bring him to the Bernabeu this summer. Wow. Xabi Alonso has targeted the Spanish midfielder. He believes that Real Madrid's midfield is an absolute mess. They were obviously destroyed by PSG in the Club World Cup semi-final. They went out to Arsenal in the Champions League last year as well. Obviously, it said that City do not want to be losing the midfielder. He was out with an ACL last season, which we know, don't we know? Dear me. He has come back since the Club World Cup, but this is the important part. This is the stickler for both parts, both teams. 2027, Rodri has only got 2 years left on his current deal at Manchester City. And that's why Real Madrid think or believe they can be confident in snatching him, because obviously Real Madrid have kind of been known to sort of go after free agents. Obviously, we've seen him most recently with Trent Alexander-Arnold. They did the same with Mbappe. They're not going to be able to do that with Rodri because his contract doesn't expire for 2 years. So if they want him, they want to get him now, basically. In 2 years' time, he'll be 31, obviously towards the end of his... not the end of his career, but the twilight of his career for sure. So they feel like they could possibly test Manchester City's resolve with an offer. The alternative side to this is that we're getting reports that City are really pushing hard to finalise a new contract for Rodri as well, which is the positive side, the bit that City fans want to be hearing. It said that City are keen to make him extend and make him one of the best paid players in the squad, up there with Erling Haaland. Now, obviously, if you consider that Kevin De Bruyne has just left, Kevin De Bruyne was up there with City in terms of City's highest earners. You would assume, in that list of hierarchy, I would assume anyway, that Rodri is certainly next up, or he's certainly deserving to be next up, sorry. So I think that makes sense from that front. City obviously want to tie him down. Any long-term contract for Rodri at this point, you would assume essentially means City have him for the rest of his peak, the rest of his sort of top years in the game, because, yes, you might be saying £100 million isn't enough for Rodri with 2 years left in his deal. What would Real Madrid have to pay for City to even entertain a move when he's got 5 years left on a deal? You're talking £400 million maybe, or something daft like that. So that's the news. That's what we know so far. If you are enjoying, make sure to leave a like and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. That's the basics. What I do think is worth mentioning at this point, and it might seem a bit trivial, it might seem a bit, maybe not necessarily that important, but let me take you back to the Ballon d'Or ceremony. What was it, in October, November, in the autumn time anyway. And Rodri obviously was up for that award, but for all the love and money in the world, it felt like going into it, at least like the days leading up to it, Vinny Jr. was going to win it. As we know, the crybaby, Vinny Jr. didn't win it. Instead, Rodri won it. But how did Real Madrid react to that? Did they go up? Did they shake his hand? Did they say fair play, well done? No. The entire organisation, the entire club, the entire team, players, manager, president, shamed him. They didn't turn up. They boycotted it. The biggest moment in an individual footballer's career, obviously Rodri scored in the Champions League final, that's probably on the pitch, the biggest moment. But in terms of, players will dream of winning the Ballon d'Or, being crowned the best player in world football. Real Madrid were as disrespectful, I think, as you can imagine they could have been in that situation. Then afterwards, players, managers, coaches coming out and sort of dismissing it, saying that Rodri didn't deserve to win it. Basically acting like children. absolute pathetic little boys, which is, I think, anyway, important to recognise because you set your standards. Rodri, to me, I don't know the guy. I'm only going off the sort of interviews we get, the talk about how he is as a person. But he strikes me anyway as a real genuine, principled man. Obviously, we know all the sort of the jokes by now that he doesn't have social media, that he's very intelligent and academic. His girlfriend or partner is, I think she's a nurse, something like that. So he lives a kind of normal life, if you like. He doesn't have this flashy footballer lifestyle like we see other people have. So you get this perception, I guess, that he isn't, like a typical footballer. If footballers want to behave like that, that's fine with me. They've got the money, they spend it how they want. But to me, it just feels like, for Rodri, something like that, I think would hurt, would sting. Yes, you have to say, obviously, he's Spanish. Real Madrid are not only the biggest club in Spain, they're the biggest club in the world, really, aren't they, if we're being honest? So there's always that, and I'm sure at one point he grew up and, he would have wanted to play for Real Madrid. Obviously, there's the Atletico Madrid connection as well. I can't comment on that rivalry. I don't know how much for players it would make a difference. I don't know if it's similar to Man United and City, for example, or Man United Liverpool, whatever different rivalries. I don't know if playing for Atletico would stop you then going on to Real Madrid, unless he is like a die-hard fan that we don't necessarily know. But I don't know, so I'm not going to sort of bring that into play. But I just think that if Real Madrid genuinely wanted a chance to sign Rodri, the last thing they should have been doing is disrespecting him like that. For me, that's just off your pop. Do you know what I mean? I don't know anyway now. And I think maybe this is me being a little bit silly, but if for whatever reason, not that I think it will happen, but if for whatever reason Rodri did end up going to Real Madrid, I'd be a bit disappointed in him because of that. So yeah, that's where we are so far. If I'm to predict what's going to happen, I think City sign him down to a contract. I think he's happy here. I think he enjoys it. Yes, obviously Guardiola is probably coming towards the end of his time with City. I know he's got a couple of years left in his contract, but it felt a bit touch and go that he was going to extend the last time he did. So yeah, maybe he's leaving in the next year or two. I don't know. And then who knows what's going to happen after that in the post-Pep world? Who knows? But I just feel like Rodri's settled. He's happy. He's obviously enjoyed his time in Manchester. He's become. I'm not going to say that he is sort of, he won the Ballon d'Or because of City. No, because it was him. He did incredible stuff with Spain as well. But at the same time, City have helped him get to that level. And maybe he goes, you know what? I'm off now. I'm going to try to go to the biggest club in the world and whatever. But I think, there is that mutual respect between them that, yes, City have been great. Yes, Rodri have been great, but they've also been great together. Maybe this is just cope. Maybe they do submit the bid and we're here sort of wiping our tears away. But I just don't see it. I don't see it. So fingers crossed anyway. Other news to speak about. James Trafford is still being prioritised by City according to outlets and reports. Ederson obviously yet to move. City apparently waiting for a bid, but it seems like Ederson's head has gone that way to Galatasaray or leaving City or whatever. So that feels like it's going to get done. Obviously, no Tino Livramento. On the channel, we did 4 potential alternatives for Tino Livramento. So go and check that video out if you haven't already. No midfielder. City will not be signing a new midfielder. That was another news story that dropped earlier this week. So there was sort of tentative talks that maybe Morgan Gibbs White, that deal could be resurrected, but it doesn't look like that's the case. In fact, the report that was from, I think it was in the Manchester Evening News, said that there is a possibility that a midfielder could leave City, and the names that were mentioned were Ilkay Gundogan. Obviously, we've known about interest in him, but also Nico Gonzalez, which, look, City came out and briefed, I think it was earlier in the summer, that Nico Gonzalez is part of the plans. There's nothing to worry about there, blah, blah, blah. But we're still hearing mentions of his name in transfer talk, which for me, maybe a bit of a red flag. I think he's done great when he's played for City, and I'd love to see him get a chance. Hopefully he does. We'll have to see. But I think otherwise, that's as you were. in terms of transfer news. Another shout, get subscribing and in the Discord if you haven't already. But otherwise, I think it's kind of been a bit of a slow summer, which has irritated some City fans, I think it's fair to say, in terms of, getting business done, primarily getting players out as well. We've had no exits since the Club World Cup in terms of the players that, potentially had played the last game. The names. I'm not going to sort of start name dropping and start sort of speculating, but the sort of players that were possibly linked with exits away. None of them yet. I think Kyle Walker's the only one, but obviously he'd already left. He was on loan at AC Milan last summer. I think it's worth mentioning though that City got some good business done early doors. If we were just sort of signing Ait Nouri, Ryan Cherki, Tijani Reinders now, there would be much more of a buzz. But I think it's easy to forget because they played with the team at the Club World Cup. They still haven't sort of. Well, they've played like 4 games for City. They're still new signings, and we can still be excited about them. So I think some people are getting a bit restless, and I understand why. But I would sort of say patience in that regard. And yeah, I think it will take shape in the next couple of weeks. I'm hoping so anyway, because I don't want to be starting the season with question marks in several positions in the squad. You have 1 or 2 maybe, and there's deals that are going on, and you're like, is this going to get done? Blah, blah, blah. But you don't want to be starting the squad with starting the season, with loads of question marks surrounding your squad. That's where we are at the moment. Like I said, subscribe to the City Ramble, keeping you up to date. And not only up to date with the news, but also sharing our opinions as well. Plenty more of the panel shows to go when the season starts back up again. Obviously, if you didn't know as well, we run a podcast throughout the season, daily podcast, Monday through to Friday. And I think that's it. A little bit of a check-in base at the end there. But this is where we are. This is the summer. It's always moving quickly. No Livramento, no Morgan Gibbs-White. James Trafford looks like it could be done in the next week or so. Edison looks like he's leaving. I think that's that. Until next time, it's been a pleasure. And we'll see you later.